He links up play really well. Technically excellent. Reminds me a bit of Thierry Henry, the way he's got this kind of leggy gait. He's not prolific, but he's wanted because he's got potential.
A transfer that hasn't happened yet, but could this summer, and it looks like he's going to be on the move, is Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. We spoke to Kevin Hatchard, your fellow commentator, about Ekitike, and he says he's got a lot of different assets to his game in terms of being able to link up play as well as score goals. So I wanted to get your perspective on Ekitike and why do you think there's so much interest in him this summer?
Because he's not your average centre forward. He's, as Kevin said, he links up play really well. Technically excellent. Reminds me a bit of Thierry Henry, the way he's got this kind of leggy gait. He's not prolific. I think 15 league goals was his best ever last season for Frankfurt. But he's wanted because he's got potential. He's had a funny career. He began at Reims in France when he got a move to PSG, maybe a bit too young. So made that step from Reims, who were a pretty small club in France, to PSG. They paid good money. And this was the kind of tail end of PSG's Galacticos. So it was tough to get game time. Didn't work out there. He was wanted by Frankfurt 2 years ago, didn't come off. Went there 18 months ago to Frankfurt to replace Rondel Colomboigny, who moved on to PSG. Um, and I think the step down to Frankfurt did him the world of good because suddenly he'd gone from being this small fish in a big pond at PSG to being the main man again, as he was at Reims, but with Frankfurt. And he scored goals really from the get-go. That first half season, I think he got 4 in 14, so not prolific. But last season really kicked on. Linked up so well with Marmoush before he was sold in January to Man City. And I think with Ekitike, he's a very unselfish striker. He does bring others into the game. Technically, his touch, his balance is exceptional. For a guy who's really tall and really leggy, there's a grace to his game. And yeah, I think he's got a point to prove as well because obviously Liverpool would be a step back up to the top level. And having failed, he was a young kid, but at PSG didn't work out. Now at 23, maybe now is the time to say, look, I'm going to try my luck again at a top club. And this, is for him, if it does come off, a real opportunity.
Not to put too much pressure on Ekitike, but you kind of compared him before to Henri in terms of his style, not necessarily the player as a whole. If you had to compare him to a striker and maybe the other strikers on the market this summer, like Gyökeres, Šeško, Julian Alvarez, there's obviously Isak. How would you compare him to those? What strengths does he have over those players?
Very different to all those players you mentioned. He's, I can't really think of a current player I can really compare him to. He just brings a skill set which it's almost unique at that level.
How close would you say he is to, and it's kind of that holy grail that's never going to be found of Roberto Firmino?
Yeah, I mean, Firmino obviously wasn't the kind of same physical size. Technically, I guess there are similarities, but I just think Ekitike is his own player.
So we're not in the same sort of ballpark there.
Not really, not really. But if Liverpool get him, he'll be a great asset to the squad. And I think, yeah, I think he is at that age now, 23, where he is probably due that next crack at the top level. Frankfurt are a big club, qualified for the Champions League again for next season, but they're not Liverpool. It's not the Premier League, and I think for him to really maybe break into the French squad as well, he needs that next step. And if Liverpool did get him, he'd be a good asset, and I think it would be good for the player as well to kind of try himself at that higher grade again.
And is there anyone you've commentated on that you think Liverpool would be wise to go for? Maybe at centre back, Liverpool might be looking for a young defender or a young striker. Is there anyone you'd pick out the hat and say that would be someone to look at?
I like Hincapié at Leverkusen, the Ecuadorian defender. He wouldn't come cheap. Again, he plays on the left of that back three or as a left back. and I think he probably is going to be one of the next players Leverkusen probably would sell or would maybe have to sell because interest will come in. I like the Belgian at Frankfurt too, Theate. I think he's again plays left side centre back or as a left back. Um, and yeah, I think defensively that those two players certainly kind of tick the boxes for me in the Bundesliga as players who could play in the Premier League for a team like Liverpool. But the Bundesliga is a fantastic kind of melting pot of young players. Young players are given a chance to thrive there at a young age. And yeah, Theate certainly, and Frimpong as well, because he came into the team at Leverkusen at a young age from Celtic as well. They've really kind of grown and developed in the German game.